Hi and welcome. Our match on the map Spaceport kicks off almost immediately after we leave our spawn. The action starts as soon as we reach this fuel station. From here, your job is to keep an eye to the left, specifically the area I've marked. That's one of the exit routes from the enemy's spawn, usually around grid squares D1 and C1. In some matches, you might even catch your first target right at this early stage. Now our game plan splits into two parts. The first option is for strong vehicles, ones with good gun depression and mobility. The second option is better suited for tanks with poor gun angles, lower speed, or if it's your first time playing this flank. Let's start with the first plan, and I'll show you the second one a bit later. Our goal is to take control of the hill in the upper left corner of grid square B2. This position is super easy to remember. It's almost right where 4 sectors meet, so finding it won't be a problem. This is our anchor position. From here, we get our first kills and start gathering intel on how the battle is unfolding. Your job is to control every enemy moving through this flank. The key objective is simple. Don't let the enemy take over grid square B2. If they do, they'll have a clear line of fire on our teammates holding the capture point. There are usually 2 scenarios here. The first, and less common, is when enemies push right up to your position. In that case, you'll have to fight at close range and outplay them in direct combat. The second, and more common, was when the enemy ignores the flank and just camps behind the hills in grid squares C1 or D1. If that happens, your job is to stay patient and punish their mistakes whenever they peak. And if there's nothing happening up close, from this position you have partial control over the capture zone. Also, don't forget to keep an eye to the left. There's a sneaky firing line that covers a road the enemy often uses, and almost every match there's a chance to catch someone off guard there. The key is to check that angle regularly. Don't let it slip from your attention. When I'm playing a tank with poor gun depression, I take a slightly different approach and move to this position instead. From here, we get a decent view of the hills where enemies usually hide, and we're in a good spot to catch anyone trying to push forward. If we know that enemies are still sitting behind the hills in front of us, we stay put and wait for them to make a mistake. But if you've already picked off a few and you're confident there's no one left ahead, it's time to go on the offensive and start pushing forward. Now we need to move into grid square C1. Of course, as we advance, we have to stay alert. Watch for enemies not just in front of you, but also to your left. Our main goal is to reach this hill right here. From this position, we can cover 3 different exit routes from the enemy spawn. The first one is used by players trying to flank and push toward capture point A. The second is used by those who know you're here and will actively try to take you out. And the third is for enemies simply heading straight toward point A or B. At this stage, our game plan is basically complete. All that's left is to hold this position and solo lock down the enemy's entire spawn route. Overall, this strategy is very simple to execute, but extremely effective. By following this basic game plan, I'm usually able to rack up a solid number of kills on this map. One last tip that might come in handy here. There's a small move you can make, pushing slightly forward, which gives you direct visibility on the enemy spawn. Sometimes it leads to an extra kill. Whether you use it or not is up to you. After all, everyone knows spawn camping is frowned upon. and taking out enemies right on their spawn isn't exactly fair play. By the way, when I'm playing Soviet tanks, I follow the exact same plan and usually end up finishing the match right here, in this same position. Before we move on to the other side of the map, I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to watch my videos. Thanks for being here, for dropping comments and leaving likes. It's a huge help, and it lets the channel grow at an insane pace. If you're new around here, feel free to check out my strategies for other maps too. And just in case, there's a button down there that says subscribe. If you click it, you won't lose track of the channel. And of course, massive thanks to the legends who hit the join button and became channel members. I seriously appreciate the support. Thank you. From the opposite side, we're taking the same position, just flip to the other side. This time, we'll be countering the players who used the plan I showed you earlier. Now guys, the hardest part here is simply remembering where to look on your way to the position. I'd rather not repeat "look over here" 10 times in a row, so instead I've prepared a short clip that shows the full route to the spot. It should help you understand exactly where and when to check as you move in. Here's our hill. This is where we'll be playing the first phase of the match. Now, I'm sure you already know what happens if we give up the left flank without a fight. That's why I usually take on the job of defending it myself. The hardest part is simply getting to the position. After that, it's all about your skills, and you'll need every bit of them if you end up facing a heavy push alone. At the start of the battle, don't rush. Take a moment to read the situation. If our team is already losing across the board, there's no point trying to reposition. Just focus on holding your flank. While you're here, your teammates still have a safe route out of the spawn through grid square D1. But if you lose this spot, the team pretty much loses any chance of turning the game around. And don't forget, a lot of players just quit the match when they see no allies on the enemy's side of the map, or even in the center. They assume the game's already over. So by holding this position, you're not just defending the flank, you're keeping hope alive for your team. From this position, you should keep in mind that you have partial visibility on the capture point. Also remember, if things start going badly in the middle of the map, you can take a bit of a risk and relocate to the hill on your right to try and support your teammates. In general, I really recommend remembering this spot. It gives you a great view of the center of the map, and you also have partial sight lines on point A. So if your team decides to push for it, you'll be able to provide some solid cover from here. We just talked about the worst-case scenario, one that doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's rough. Now let's go over a more favorable situation and what we'll be doing in that case. Our key position is in grid square B2, and we should move there as soon as we've confirmed two things. First, that the enemy isn't pushing our flank, and second, that we have teammates either in the center or on the enemy's side of the map. In other words, we need to be sure we're not losing, that it's safe to shift out of full defense. This is a really powerful position. It gives you control over the left flank, one of the enemy's spawn exits, and the routes they usually take to attack point A. Also, don't forget, if enemy helicopters show up, you can hide behind the big pipe in front of you for cover. There's really no need to leave this spot. From here, you can hold the area and defend the point until the end of the match. Now let's talk about slow tanks, and tanks with poor gun depression. If you're in a slower vehicle, you'll almost never make it to the main position in time, so we'll need to adjust our plan a bit. Our goal is to get to this hill right here. From there, you'll have a decent view of the road the enemy usually takes to capture the point. You'll also be able to stop anyone trying to push down the left flank. Once you're sure the area is clear and there's no immediate threat, you can rotate straight to our key position in Grid Square B2. And now, a few tips for tanks with poor gun depression. Unfortunately, when it comes to fighting for Grid Square B2, Soviet tanks can't play as easily or comfortably as vehicles with better gun handling. So we'll need to adjust our positioning a bit. Most of the time, it's enough to simply shift your tank slightly to the left. That should give you just enough angle to fire effectively. Now, about our last position. Soviet tanks can hold it, but you'll often get punished in return. That's why, in most cases, I prefer moving to the spawn camping position instead. Honestly, how you get there doesn't really matter. Pushing up to the enemy spawn is pure chaos anyway, but once you reach the hill, you'll have a solid chance to knock out enemies right as they spawn. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful and helps you score more kills on this map. That's all from me for today. Take care, and I'll see you next time.